If ever a school cherished its tradition, it's Notre Dame. But there are big changes coming to South Bend, especially in basketball. And head coach Coach Brey joins us now for the second half of our interview with him. Coach, in the first part of our interview, we talked a little bit about the ACC and the switch from the Big East. Let's elaborate on that a little bit more in terms of style of play. What are the biggest differences from the Big East and the ACC?
Well, that's a great question, and my staff and I have talked about that a lot here since the season has ended. And you know, I think you have more skill guys in the ACC than in the Big East. You have some more raw physical strength and athletes in the Big East. Specifically, your four-man, your second big guy in the ACC, in most cases is a face-up four, a stretch four-man, like a Ryan Kelly, like a Scott Martin was for us before he got injured. So that makes it tough to defend that if you're playing two bigger guys. And so I think that's something we're going to have to digest and figure out how to defend and what's the best way to defend it.
And it'll be interesting as you work through the offseason and build your program in that four position for the transition into the ACC. Coach, no secret, one of the big headlines here in college basketball over the past several days, week or plus, has been the situation out of Rutgers with Coach Mike Rice. You know Mike Rice. You've coached against him. What were your initial impressions of that situation, and where is that line in college basketball on how to treat and motivate your players?
Well, that's thoroughly embarrassing for our profession, and being an NABC board member, we talked about it on Thursday, last Thursday in Atlanta, and came out with a statement. And what I've been trying to tell people, that is an extreme outlier of coaches and teachers in our profession. That is off the charts, and that just doesn't happen. And there is a unique situation that is, it saddens me because I've had a lot of guys, buddies of mine, say, hey, so does that happen a lot in your profession? And it doesn't. It doesn't. I think many coaches are very firm, but they're fair. But you can't ever put your hands on a player and throwing basketballs at guys. You know, in my practices, the players throw balls at me. You know, anyways, it's just it's sad. It's embarrassing, but it's an outlier, and that's not how our profession works. I think we have a majority of the guys teaching, coaching, are really positive reinforcement guys and people that give young people confidence. That's the key with what we do.
All right, great points and well said. Let's talk about the game now on the floor. An exciting finish with the championship game. But all the talk, I think, throughout the season, there was a lot of negative publicity in terms of the game isn't quite what it used to be. The game needs to be fixed. First of all, do you agree with that? And secondly, what is the solution to make basketball more exciting?
No, I do agree. You know, I finished as chair of the Rules Committee just 2 years ago, so we talked a lot about these issues. Actually, I was the chair when we put the arc on the floor to try and clean up defenders getting underneath, and I think we've cleaned it up some. We're still I think college officials are still adjusting to that. The game is way too physical. The NBA has done a much better job at protecting their offensive players. As a matter of fact, a perimeter player in the NBA can get to the basket with less physicality from the defense than a college player, and that shouldn't happen. So we really need to take a look as a rules committee to look at some absolutes. In the NBA, as soon as hands go on a perimeter guy, foul. And everybody adjusts. Call the fouls, players will adjust. And I think we have to take a very aggressive stance over the next couple years to clean that up. Cutters getting grabbed and held and pushed. Protecting shooters. It's hard to get a shot off sometimes in the lane without getting body blocked. And I think John Adams and Art Highland, who are the two power positions in our rules committee, rules changes, we've got to step down now or it's only going to get slower and less scoring.
Your players were a pretty easy target, though, to run to with those neon green uniforms. What was your first reaction when that photo was placed in front of you? This is what we're proposing.
Well, Adidas placed that photo in front of me and then went like this. And then I went, we're going for it. And they were like, really? And you know what? Real simple. My current players loved it. They were so excited about it. And that generation that I'm recruiting loved it. I got more text messages. I actually had Demetrius Jackson, a McDonald's All-American who we signed from South Bend. The day after we beat Marquette in the green, he went and bought a uniform at Dick's Sporting Goods in South Bend and sent me a picture of it. I showed that to our staff. I said, this is why we did this. Even President Obama chimed in. I sent him a jersey. He sent me a handwritten note back saying, the Secret Service will never lose me in that jersey.
How about that?
So, you know what? Everybody was talking about it, and it was fun to do. I think some of my old guard alums are still, Mike, how could you do that?
Sure.
But it was for 15 years old to 22, and it certainly made its point.
Let me ask you one more question about football and the success Brian Kelly has had. How does that success on the football field, them getting back into the national conversation, is there any residual effect to help your basketball program?
Oh, absolutely. There's no bigger a football fan than me. This is my 5th football coach in my 13 years. I've seen a lot of change. We really have the right guy. Brian is a fabulous fit, and he certainly proved that in year number 3 this past season. But when they're going good, the energy on campus is good at a key time in the fall when I'm recruiting and bringing people on campus. So I love for them to play. I like when they play till January, then the fans leave me alone for a while.
That sounds good. We will leave you alone. Notre Dame head coach Mike Brey, thanks for stopping by the studio.
Great to be with you.
Well, if you haven't clicked on part 1 of the interview, here where Coach thinks his team needs the most improvement and what he learned about Louisville from that 5 overtime classic here on CampusInsiders.com.